What's going on, everybody? It is Thor's Day. You know, this is my favorite day of the week. I love this week very, very much. Let's get this intro going, you guys. We're going to jump right into it. I know a lot of people have questions. We're going to get those addressed today. For those who have not heard, THORChain is the world's leading Bitcoin DEX. You can swap 13 different blockchains across 41 different pools without using bridges or wrap tokens. Check it out at swap.thorchain.org. That's swap.thorchain.org. Anyone in the world can use THORChain. There's no account to open, no KYC required, and privacy is a human right. THORChain has two tokens. That's RUNE and TCY. The fees for swapping on THORChain are paid in RUNE, and that's where the yield comes from. The fees are deducted from swaps, so you don't need to own RUNE to trade on THORChain. Pretty cool. The RUNE token is also deflationary as 5% of the fees are burned. 10% of protocol fees goes to TCY token holders. Remember to stake the TCY tokens in order to collect this yield. There are no block rewards. The protocol's fees are real money paid by real users. THORChain is more than just a DEX, you guys. It is a programmable layer 1 with the ability to create smart contracts on it and dApps. This app layer is being developed by Rujira. If you need help with THORChain in general, please join the THORChain community Discord and Telegram groups. Links for those are on thorchain.org, thorchain.org. And on thorchain.org, you can join our email list. It's the best way to stay up to date with THORChain's current information. And always remember, guys, this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, or legal advice. The THORChain community does not endorse or condone illicit activity of any kind. Additionally, you guys, we give the intro because some people are going to watch this recording, but just for those who are watching live, THORChain is currently paused. So if you're new, just something to remind, we're hoping to get the network up and going here very soon. So if you're watching a recording, hopefully it's THORChain. This is old news and it's live and going. But anyway, guys, my name is Denny. I go by Patriot Sounds on X. I've been doing content and education with THORChain going on 6 years now. I love it. I'm going to kick it to my main man, Kenton, for an update, and then we're going to get this party started. What's going on, Kenton?
Hey, good, thanks. Yeah, I don't know if I got much to kind of report about marketing-wise over the last week. I was in the Telegram group chat chatting with Max Power and some other people about paying, KOLs, influencers, stuff like that. I just started. The Sell and Mark show is the first deal we've done. And it's cheap, guys. Like it's very little money. And I have no intention of looking at getting into pump and dumpers, paying Mario Naufel 50 grand for one tweet. I'm not going to do anything like that. I promise you. And I know the KOL side of the business is like riddled with like BitBoys and like idiots and scammers and whatever. I understand all that perfectly. But there are some gems in the rough. And if there's one consistent theme I've heard from multiple different people, different parties, from different angles, it's actually the small and up and coming KOLs that are actually pretty good bang for your buck because they're still trying to build an audience. They're still cheap and they haven't blown up their audience and still have trust with their audience. So, I'd like to explore eventually explore some of those. Yeah, so please trust me. I'm not going to do anything crazy like that. Yeah, and I'm just starting to tip our toe into this arena. I am talking to another KOL. We're disagreeing on price for this reason. I actually think he's decent. I think he's good. I'd love to work something out with him, but we're pretty far apart on price right now. So I am cost conscious of this, guys. So please trust me.
What does KOL stand for?
Key opinion leader.
Yes.
Key opinion leader. And just this like YouTube influencers and
influencer.
Kind of
Roughly.
Leave it to crypto. It comes up with all these new terms. So they used to be called promoters, right? In TradFi, you're a promoter. Yeah. So like I've dealt with these promoters, guys, in junior mining stocks and penny stocks. Like I know the game. I know how it works. I know how to find out who's who, and like you can see through it all pretty quick. I don't know how to explain it, but I like to think I just have a natural knack for knowing what a pump and dump is. You can see it pretty quickly. and whether that's somebody's business model or not. And I have been pitched those. I've had people try to like, oh, we can do this and do that, get your token price up. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? Like, that's not, I want users. I want people to trade on THORChain. And their brain stops. They're like, you can see in their mind, they're like, you actually want a customer? And I'm like, yes, I don't want to just like pump my token price. Like, I want to get actual users. And like, oh, well, yeah, we don't really know how to do that. And I'm like, okay. But anyway, so yeah, please trust me, guys. And the Sound Mark showed that's a good deal. We're gonna get at least once a week a tweet, a commercial on every weekly show, and then we're gonna get a sign on their wall, on their brick wall that they have on the podcast. So it's like tons of exposure. You know, a lot of these deals are pretty skimpy, you know, for what you pay and what you get. So this is actually why I feel so strongly about getting new tokens like Furo and Quai and maybe this Nano and whatever. And I get it. These are small, you know, they're modest market cap, modest volume networks. But when we bring them on, what happens is we get a promoter for free, or the cost for us is our chain net's time to get the chain like looking good and working on THORChain, and then the node operator's fees for running the chain daemon. That's our real hard dollar cost. And I guarantee you that is going to be way cheaper than what I've paid Sal and Mark and anyone else, any of the other KOLs to promote THORChain. And so when we get like Furo, for example, or Xano, like they want to be on a DEX, they're going to go to their whole audience, whether it's 5 or 10,000 people, and they're going to tell everybody, come use THORChain, right? And they're going to do it all of the time, not just like once a week, and they're just going to like check a box. Whoever they talk to, whenever they're trying to promote their token, come trade on THORChain. You can go, it's so easy, come buy this and that. So we get people selling THORChain for us for very little. And it just really helps build the network effects. So that's my megalomania picture, vision for getting these interesting blockchains, if you will. And then I also would love THORChain to be positioned as like, these projects should look to us first to launch their token, not Binance. Just like we want users to swap on THORChain first, not Binance.
Well, Binance wants like $1 million or something.
Yeah, exactly.
You know.
Yeah. And so then, you know, if we can tell them, listen, really you only need about 50 to 100 grand. But then now with POL kicking in, and if you have a legitimate volume and people are trading your token, the protocol is going to start adding to your pool. And eventually someday you can even withdraw your liquidity if you want. And so it really just frames us as a partner with these blockchains instead of Binance just extracting from them. And all these other centralized exchanges just extracting, just like the way they treat their users, extracting from their users, forced liquidations, dumping on their users, right? THORChain becomes a partner with these other protocols. And in turn, we become partners with their users. So, this whole concept of network effects, right? And so that's the big picture, what I'd like to push like that. And I would like to spend more money on like SEO and AEO versus KOLs, because we'll get way more return out of the SEO and AEO. It might take a bit longer for that to grab hold, but once it's there and working, we get that organic search, right, is way more powerful than the KOL. So just helping you guys know my priorities, how I'm thinking about this. The next thing, so if there's a new page on the swap interface, affiliate.thorchain.org. So it's a way for new partners, integrations, to come and log in or register to request to get the API. And it's definitely an alpha right now. There's lots of things that need to be kind of worked out. I still don't know if I'd even send a new partner to it yet. But it's live. We're going. We're working on it. Hopefully next week we'll have fix up a lot more things. But basically, instead of people just reaching out to me or Randy, through Discord or Telegram, whatever, they can go to the website, they can go register their email. Randy and I will get an email, we'll get notified, we can go approve them, reach out to them right away. But then now that person has a dashboard where they can manage, they can see their API key, they can add their THORName and my name, they can set their fee, they can choose which token they want to be paid out on. They have a list of all the earnings that they've gotten from their THORChain affiliate. That's been requested by a few people already now. And then eventually we'll have it so that it pre-populates all the code for a widget. So someone can just log in, enter in their THORName, my name, the fee, the other API. It'll write all the code for the widget, copy and paste it, put it in their website, and they're done. And so we're just trying to iron out the flow in the process and make it as easy as possible. And we have talked about whether the API should be permissioned or not. I believe it should, because I want to have a relationship with all of our partners. We can at least say hi, have them on the podcast, open up a Telegram group chat with them. This is just sales, right? Relationship management, just saying in front of somebody. If it's permissionless, there's no human-to-human connection. There's no contact. We have no relationship. There's no we like you guys, so we're going to stick with you, right? We don't have any of that. Plus, it just prevents spam. And so, but somebody can still integrate THORChain on their own. They don't need the API, right? The API is just to make it easy for them. But THORChain is still permissionless, so anyone can still tie into THORChain if they want without asking for the API. That's about it, guys. I think that's about all I've been working on. The newsletter should start going out next Wednesday. We're just going to go back and forth on it right now this week. And I think that's it. But I know you guys want to know what's going on here with the process to get live, get trading again. So I'll stop talking and hand it over to Chad. You can give us an update where we're at.
So 3.19.1 was released. I think late last night, like around midnight Eastern Standard Time, all the nodes had finally updated to it. And in that release was really two things. One is some patches to the verify key thing, which I'll come back to in a second. And then the other thing was a patch to Gaia. There was an exploit or a bug with Gaia we wanted to patch. That's now patched. We want to resume the chain for Gaia so that we can get all the nodes back up to the tip, because we're going to need them to be at the tip in order to churn correctly. The KeyVerify is already verified 2 of the vaults, so we have 6 vaults in total. We don't need to verify the compromised vault. We already know it's called compromised. 2 of them have been verified formally. I think there's like 2 or 3 more that need to be. We're waiting on those nodes to come together or whatever. I think 2 of the nodes were like offline for some reason. I'm not really sure what's going on with that operator, but we're going to give them, basically like 24 hours ish to, kind of get their stuff together. And if they can't, then we might just move on without it. But last time I looked, there was 2 vaults that were formally verified to be safe. So probably this time tomorrow, we'll probably enable signing and the churn, which will then start the, churning keygen process and then the churning process and all these kind of things. That might get delayed with the Gaia thing being unhalted, at some point today, because it might take a day or 2 for all the nodes to get to the tip of Gaia.
Can I get an update on that, Chad? It just got resumed right now as we're speaking.
Oh, the guy chain did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. I haven't looked. I can look at my secondary laptop here, but I don't know how far behind the tip we are on the Gaia stuff. We'll find out very soon. It shouldn't be that bad. It should be, I would say within 24 hours. I'm going to guess if I had a reasonable guess on it. We don't even really need that for the keygen. We just need it for the churn part. If you know what I mean by that. That's just the moving of the funds itself. So we'll resume churn probably tomorrow at some point. And then the nodes will start doing the keygen process, which sometimes that works within an hour. We've seen it take as long as 2 weeks in extreme cases, however long that takes for the nodes to do a key gen, and then another 6 hours after that for the actual churn process to happen. And then at that point, we're probably pretty good to go. Just got to enable secured assets, trade assets, LP actions, and trading. And then we're probably trading live and back fully online again. So hopefully by Monday-ish, we'll be trading again.
Oh my gosh, I would love to hear that. I do have a question specifically about the KeyVerify thing, Chad. So, we've got 2 vaults that are still not verified. Someone wanted to know specifically how much time are you interested in allocating trying to get this? And if it keeps failing, when would we just push past it and just carry on?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on it. I mean, the whole verify key thing was an idea that we came up with, but we were concerned about the fragility of it. It's a party process that peer-to-peer networks that communicate with rounds of communication, and it's just always a very complicated thing to do, and I don't want to spend too much time on that. We already kind of know, we've already verified with all the vaults, every one of them through a different process to verify that they're safe. That gives us like a 99.9% certainty that they're good. And just for that last 0.1, we were doing this whole verify key thing. So it doesn't really bother me too much if we can't get all the vaults, to be honest with you. But ideally it would be better, right? If everything was magical in the world and everything just worked the way you would hope it to work in your brain. But if it doesn't, then that's not a big deal in my mind too much, to be honest with you. And we'll just carry on. Probably by the end of day tomorrow, we should be enabling churning and all that kind of stuff and start that process.
So this KeyVerify thing, I'm actually quite ignorant on it. Is this KeyVerify system, is this going to be something that is happening additionally in the background going forward, or is this unique to this specific situation?
This is unique to this specific situation. Once the churn is done and the old vaults are gone, right, we're probably just going to disable this entire feature through a Bifrost configuration change and just get all the nodes to turn it off effectively. It's just this one time, just to check the Palliers kind of, biprimes and all this kind of stuff to make sure all the participants in the key signing process have secure, secure biprimes.
I understand. Kenton, did you have anything you wanted to ask? Been talking for a little bit.
No. Well, I guess so. After the KeyVerify, when that's all done, what was the next one? Resume signing? No, the churn.
Yeah, signing and churn have to be turned on because you have to sign in order to churn, right? You can't move funds unless you're signing. So both of those will probably get flicked on, and then we'll take however long the churn takes, which could be a few hours and it could be a few days. It just depends upon the network and the nodes being online and all that kind of stuff. And however long that takes. Once that's over and the churn is done, I think we're pretty good to turn on trading again and all the rest of the functionality.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. When we go to turn on all the trading, do we have to turn on trade assets first, then secured, kind of give ARBs time to ARB the pools, then L1s, or we just do it all at once? Just everything is turned on at the same time?
I mean, the LP stuff, that doesn't really matter in terms of the order. Secured assets would be positive to enable just that one first, because that's what ARBs use to ARB, and they have to be able to move their assets on and off the chain in order to complete the full circle process of arbitraging a DEX or whatever. I wouldn't delay it much. We might just flip them all at the same time, and it might cause the pools to be a little bit slower to correcting their prices, but that doesn't really matter that much to me.
Yeah. I assume it'll be a few days before SwapKit and our actual integrations turn us back on too. They're going to want...
Yeah, I had a conversation with SwapKit specifically. They had said that they're not going to turn back on for a few days, up to a week for some of their relationships, some of their partners, up to a week. That's less than stellar, but I don't think it really matters that much.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, I told you so. I told you so, Chad. You said trading by Tuesday. I said next Friday.
Yeah, that's because we found this guy, I think, and that slowed everything up a bunch. And then the KeyVerify didn't work on the first attempt, which I was concerned about before even when we were talking about implementing it, I expressed that to the security team. Like, I'm not really sure this is going to get it right the first time. Like, it's a lot of moving pieces at once. So I wasn't really confident about that, but they were really strongly interested in getting it done anyway. And so I was like, okay, I'll go with the security team's recommendations anyway. So there was a bunch of things that happened that were like kind of outside of predictability in some sense. But yes, you're
Like a
absolutely
node, like a node deleting their key shares, right?
like a node delete their key shares, or nodes is taking like 2 days to update to 3.19.1, right? Like that's also
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
and then
SMFQ. Come on, man.
like whatever it
Um,
is, like there's just things that happen that you don't know about when you talk about the thing last week that you can't account for the unknown unknowns.
Yeah.
I-
Well,
I-
if there's any silver lining to it, it helps reinforce to the average person THORChain is decentralized.
Yep.
We had some node SMFQ. I don't know who he is, right? He's holding up everything, because he had 3 nodes he didn't update.
Yeah.
And like you said, you mentioned this before, Denny. Maybe we're all humans. We all have something going on. Maybe he had food poisoning, whatever, right? We don't know. But it's not like Chad can just sit there, press a button, and go. Like the network's beholden to the nodes.
Yep.
So this is the cost of decentralization. It's
a lot slower. If I did run all the nodes myself, which obviously that's not the case, or even like a small minority, like it would go so much faster because I could do all the things I wanted to do without waiting for nodes to do things. But in this particular case, we need nodes to do like multiple things, like voting for bans and voting for this and updating to 3.19 or 3.19.1. And then there was tons of stuff from the development and security side of like, doing the migration to plug the $10 million hole effectively, and doing a deep dive analysis of the TSS stuff. And like there was just so many things to be dealt with. So which is why it takes so long to come back online, because it's not something you can just kind of patch in a weekend and carry on. Sometimes we're in that situation where we've seen it where we get into a consensus failure because there's some non-deterministic behavior in the code base. And that's just it's easy to find. It's not like a big deal. It's relatively easy to find. At least most of the time it is, or sometimes it's not, but most of the time it is. And we just release a patch, nodes update, and we're good within 12 hours or 18 hours or 24 hours, something like this. Those situations can be real quick because the problem scale is really small, and we just need nodes to do one quick thing, and they're motivated to get the network back online again. And so they show up faster than votes do in general, and things just move a lot quicker. But in these circumstances, with this really complicated things, we have to be like absolutely sure, as sure as humanly possible, that things are safe and we know what the issue was. Like there's so many moving parts that just makes it very difficult and time consuming. And thank God for AI, by the way, because AI made this stuff like so much easier and faster for us as developers. Like it was a lightning rod or a catalyst, if you want to call it that. We were able to get this done faster than if I didn't have AI and I had to do everything character by character by hand like I used to do.
Yeah, that's a really interesting context there. And this has given me a little bit of pause because I've said many times on the show, like, I love if we could get up to 200 node operators, but man, when things like this happen and it's like herding cats, right? Like getting everyone, especially something that involves a lot of participation from nodes. Whew, if it was 200 more, we might still be on step 3 or something, and it's just, we'd get
We
there,
would.
but it's just,
Eventually
it's
we
just
would.
hard.
Yeah.
There's a natural thing to occur, and we haven't really seen this in proof of stake networks, with maybe the exception would be Ethereum. But like in Bitcoin's history, the miners of Bitcoin were just like some random Joe in his basement, right? And it over time it became, as Bitcoin became more accepted in the industry as a whole, whatever, that like large institutions were the vast majority of mining, professional, people whose full-time job is to mine Bitcoin. And so if THORChain grows to become a much larger market cap asset and it has a lot more volume, and which is obviously what we're kind of aiming to do, the natural thing to occur from that is that you'll get a lot more node operators who are not just some guy who likes RUNE and running a node because he's bought some because he's interested in it, and he kind of does it when he has a chance to do so because he's got a server that he's got running in his basement or an AWS or whatever it is. you would actually see a maturation, like more maturity to come out of these operators to become like full-time technical experts that would be much more, engaged in the moment-to-moment stuff than, running a node on the side when I have time.
Well, that's the whole point of my fund. That's why I
Yeah.
started my fund, was to be like that,
Yeah.
to grow and become one of those serious full-time entities. That's why I decided to only invest in RUNE and nothing else, so that I can grow into that
Yep.
and be one of those players. Um, but yeah, I totally agree with you. The same, like, when we get RUNE goes $100, $100 million to run one node, like, they're not going to be people aren't going to be bonding to some anon on Telegram. They're going to want some kind of formal relationship, some kind of contract, stuff like that, right? Um, it's not to say that function won't still exist. People can't do it. It's just going to be much less likely. And so the relationship between BPs and operators are going to get much more formalized.
Yeah.
Um, so, which I think will be good. It'll be, I think it's net good, be healthy for the network. Because just like Bitcoin is decentralized enough now that it's like, what they can't, we talked about this last week. Can they sanction THORChain? Can they stop it? Whatever. Like they're not even going to try because they know they can't. I think
Yeah.
it'll be the same with THORChain. They're not even going to try because they know they can't. And so you'll be able to, use and interact and operate on THORChain openly, publicly, without any issues. Um, so yeah, I think that's the natural end result for sure.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay, guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, please know. But I think that's a really good update, Chad. I think people are really happy to hear that, hopefully by tomorrow. And again, guys, it's just based on information we have right now. Things change, of course, but I think we are definitely getting closer and closer and closer, and we're going to get there. So thank you, everyone, for your patience. I know we're over a month now, so but we're doing this responsibly. And yeah, I mean, I chatted with some devs and, DMs, and man, it's just a lot of work, guys. Like 14 hours nonstop, rotating shifts, a lot of collaboration, a lot of efforts. So yeah, just thank you, guys. Pretty
Yeah.
much. It's so complicated, right? It's so,
Yeah,
and we're
we had like separate teams working on separate aspects of this
yeah,
entire recovery process. Like it was just, it's crazy how much
Oh,
effort goes into it.
I thought of something. I've got the Lemur Labs guys. Apparently, they already talked to you, Chad,
Mhm.
and I believe they already talked to Asaf from Soda Labs to do a post-mortem
Yep.
on the hack and everything's being done. So I think there's going to be two. We're going to have so it'll be two more reports coming. One will be more technical. I think that'll come from Soda Labs, and then and the other one will be more kind of human friendly for us immortals. Um, so yeah, keep an eye out that for everyone. Hopefully that'll, I don't know, maybe a week from now, maybe 2 weeks. I don't know, however long it takes them to write it up. Um, but yeah, we will do a full postmortem on everything so you guys can understand what happened and what the solutions were.
Yeah, I told them that I wanted them to publish a postmortem within a week after we're trading again.
Okay.
Just that's kind of the goal that I set for them in a conversation we had earlier today.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll hold them to that. Um, I'm sure they will. They want to get something out too. They're eager to.
Yeah.
We're all eager to put this behind us,
Yeah,
and
of course.
yeah, but we want to do it. Yeah, properly. Full disclosure, open source. That's what's so hard about THORChain is that I think we do a really good job of being public about everything, even though it's used against us 3/4 of the time.
Yeah.
Nothing's being hidden, everything's disclosed, it's all out there. So um, that's how we build trust. That's how
Mhm.
we get past this. So um, cool. Well, I'm looking forward to reading those. Um,
And by the way, like once we get past all this, like the very first thing that I want to push for is we were voting on, I think it's ADR 27, maybe it was 26 before. I don't forget which number. I think it was 27, which is the dynamic fee model. So getting that past the line, I haven't been pushing nodes to vote on that because obviously, more important things. But once we're back online trading again, I plan on posting another kind of notification to the community to like, I think we got 30% of the vote so far. I just want to get the rest of it done to get that approval. And then once that approval is done, then we're going to start testing dynamic fee model on some select partners to see how effective it is to produce a higher volume and a higher yield for the protocol.
Nice. So you figured out, or you're happy enough anyway with your math, your algorithm on how to.
I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you, because this feels like a thing that you could tweak and change for generations to come. Just a question of like how complicated, because you can make it super complicated, right? Which obviously is in itself a problem in some shape or forms. I kind of just went for a more maybe overly simple perspective, just as a starting point, and to collect kind of real world data to let me understand where the strong points, where the weak points, and then with real world data, I can make a more, maybe a better algo, or maybe it'll work just fine the first go around. We won't make much of a change. I don't know, but I wanted to keep it very simple for V1. And then for V2, we can take the real world data and then like be able to improve and tweak the performance of this, that, and the other thing. But
Do you envision, like, when we turn this on, does it apply to all THORNames instantly, or do we have to select which THORName we want to apply it to?
It's only applies to specific THORNames. So part of the reason why that is because theoretically, if we apply it to all THORNames, Denny can be malicious and, create a bullshit THORName for himself, right? Or whatever. And then artificially trade within his THORName in a way that's manipulative to give himself very cheap trades, right? Like he could just like start, trade a lot back and forth between himself, right? Back and forth when it's 1 BIP. And then when it goes to 2 bips or 10 bips, he trades very little, just to artificially tell the protocol that 1 BIP is the best BIP for Denny, right? When we do it selectively with certain partners, we have, because the volume they're doing, it's not really practical to manipulate in that kind of way. But even if it was practical to, financially to do that, so we're doing with people that we have relationships with and have connections with, and have good degrees of confidence that they're not manipulating in one form or another. But if they are, then we can always just turn them off and say, "Fuck off." You had a good opportunity to get more trades for a better price, blah blah blah, but you decided to fuck around with it, and so we now take it away from you. So that's part of it. I know JP has been pushing me on the back end through some back channels to turn this on for non-affiliates, so that so that it applies to trades that have no affiliates to get an affiliate, a non-affiliate affiliate, I guess, to establish something. I'm not confident that that's the right thing to do. Maybe he's right. I'm not saying he's wrong about that, but it's something I do want to look into on 1.1 of the feature, into the future of considering that.
I like the idea of like a rewards program. Like the more volume you do, you get cheaper trades. So like, is that kind of what he's saying? What he's getting to with that?
No, I think he's saying that that people who don't use affiliates are probably an opportunity to be more profitable in one form or another because of the reasons why they might not want to use an affiliate. I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you, and I'll be sure to have another conversation with him and more in depth about why he's such a strong advocate. I told him back when we first kind of presented the idea to me, I was just like, I'm not really sure that would actually function the way you think it would function. The reason why is because whatever, like when the market is SwapKit, let's just take for example, right? We kind of know what that market, that little mini market is, because SwapKit integrates with these partners, with Near and Chainflip and a bunch of other characters and whatnot. And so there's somewhat of a consistency there because the market is pretty stable in terms of what the competitors are. But in a no affiliate scenario, that's just like random people at random times with random things, and there's no like consistency to it. So I'm not sure the data the protocol would collect from a no affiliate scenario would actually be meaningful signal. It would just be a bunch of random noise thrown in random directions, which might confuse the algo, right, for a dynamic fee to push in, in a better place or worse place. I'm not quite confident that that JP's position is correct, although he definitely could be. Maybe we'll turn it on one day just to turn it on and see who's right, because I don't know. I could be totally wrong about this. Like, it's totally possible, and it actually is very effective because we start charging 20 bips or 30 bips for no affiliates, right?
Is that what he was thinking? Like, we could charge more?
Yeah,
Like,
maybe that's what I think. What he's thinking is, in those scenarios, you just charge a bunch of fees, which would naturally occur possibly if in a no affiliate scenario, possibly. But like, then again, like it's like the hardest part of this whole concept is trying to separate the noise from the signal. And there's so much opportunity for noise. There's like, just the room price goes up, in one day versus the previous day. And that can cause the volume to go up or down in one direction, or the fees collected. It has nothing to do with the fact that you change the price to be cheaper or more expensive. It's just because the room price, right? Or because it's a tax day, and in tax day, people have to sell because they have to pay their taxes or something like this. It could be like, it could be some things that's outside the scope. This is why I say, like, this can get like super complicated, because you could break it down on like a day by day. You could take like a historical reference of like, okay, we also did 3 bips 3.5 months ago and compare to that. But then you can also look at like market data, like how much trade volume, not just within THORChain, but like the entire cross-chain market, like how much volume, and that bit of data would probably give you a bit more signal than noise. And so this is like this, it gets really complicated really fast, and you could break it down to being like, well, it's a weekend, so weekends trade more or less or something like this, or it's 12 o'clock on a Friday, right? And that's when China is waking up, and China, blah, 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 whatever. Like, you could really break it down to like very fine, places, but obviously it gets extremely complicated and quite verbose in a matter of speaking. And so I just, like, instead of trying to tackle all of that complexity, which is just, to be honest, is just rather overwhelming, let's just start simple for starters. Start clean, start simple, test out the idea. We'll learn some information. We'll take the information. We might need to, tweak or change some processes or mathematical ways of approaching it, and then, carrying on to find a more effective, heuristic or algo to give us the best possible outcome.
nice.
Will you be using AI to go through, parse this information to figure out, and like put it on charts and various information to help you determine what's working best?
Probably, like, for the most part, I would say no. I think I would use, I'd want to pull in somebody like Rake, to help me understand the math
Yeah.
of it all, right? To pull in the raw data and graph it and have it make sense. We could then pipe all that stuff into Claude to help us kind of analyze it. And maybe I'll do that just for the giggles of it all, right? Just to see what it comes out with. Maybe it comes up with a different view of the data than I have personally, and maybe that's helpful. But for predominantly, I would say I'll be looking at the data more like in a more human-esque way, and using AI as a supplementary way of processing it all.
It might be really fun, like when we, 'cause we do these episodes every week, like to use AI to make like a truncated version of information, like, hey, what happened this week, and then the next week, what happened this week, and that might be really cool to do. People,
Yeah,
I think, would like that.
you could totally do that.
I
Absolutely.
I feel like it should be pretty obvious when you turn it on for SwapKit, because if we're only we are only getting 4 or 5% of their volume, of their total volume, and then we should instantly get it all. In
Yeah,
theory, like
we
that'd
would
mean
get
a 20x, 25x in volume from SwapKit.
we could get a lot more volume for SwapKit. I'm actually a bit more bullish about using rev-share for that purpose on specifically SwapKit. Not on most cases. Like, Symbiosis is probably going to be our first affiliate we'll try the dynamic fee model on. And because we get, so suppose they do about 300 million in volume per month. We get about 1% of that trade volume today. They don't look at time, they just look at price. They look at what is the best price, right? That's the only attribute that they actually look at. And so by any kind of reasonable thinking, the dynamic fee model should be very effective on this particular, affiliate and give us, maybe not 300 million, but more than 1%. We should see a significant increase, I would say. But with SwapKit, it's much different because, and I haven't presented this to the community yet, but we've been in discussion about using the rev-share program for them to use the money that they generate from the rev-share, which would be some amount, like was 20%, 30%, I don't know what the number might be. And they use that to do effectively a dynamic fee model on the affiliate layer rather than doing it on the base layer. And to do it on the affiliate layer is actually much more efficient than what I'm trying to do in the base layer. I don't have control over the affiliates, obviously. I don't build their products. I build THORChain. So I do the best way I can with the tools that I have available to me. But we've been discussing with SwapKit, and the RevShare feature, by the way, is already in 3.19, which is adopted by the network. So it's already kind of ready to go. It just has to be voted on to continue. And so they're going to take the fees that we pay them, 20, 30%, whatever that is, and then they're going to use that to deduct the fees to be more competitive, not just against Near and Chainflip between like their other partners that they interact with, but their competitors on, let's call it Trust Wallet, for example, or maybe Trust Wallet would be a bad example, but
No, I think they're a good one. I think they have like a dozen different providers.
They have a dozen different providers. I think they wouldn't use it for Trust Wallet specifically because Trust Wallet has a custom agreement with them that they can't do something like this. Oh. But for Ledger might be a better example of this, where they have a bunch of different providers, and SwapKit's one of those providers, and they want to get more, swaps from and beat out their affiliates. Like not their affiliates, their other aggregators they're competing against. And so instead of taking the money themselves, they use it to discount the trade in general for the next guy who wants to make a trade, and then beat out their competitors, and then they get more volume relative to their competitors, and all of that volume they're getting additional by default and by requirement. It has to pass through us and not Chainflip or Near or the other kind of competitors within the SwapKit. So what they're proposing to us, and we're going to do, I'm going to do a full proposal to the community about this probably like next week or a few weeks maybe to give the full kind of details. But they're effectively going to use the money that we pay them with the rev share to give us dynamic fee models on the affiliate level, so that we not only beat SwapKit and Near, much more often, if not all the time, depending upon what the rev share percentage is, but actually to give SwapKit a huge amount of increase in swaps themselves, which obviously they like it. That's how they make more money, right? But then we get all that volume as well, right? So it could be that feature alone with just SwapKit could be a multiplier of our volume, because SwapKit is our largest affiliate by volume, right? I think the swap.thorchain.org is second by a smidgen. Right. But like they could get a lot more volume through SwapKit with this kind of feature, which is now in 3.19, by the way. I like rushed it into 3.19 to make sure it was there because I was really excited about the feature, to get it back online and then roll out dynamic fee model with Symbiosis, which I'm assuming will be successful in that context, and then we'll start rolling out to other affiliates. And then do this rev share thing with SwapKit would be another multiplier on our volume. And then the other thing that we've been talking about too is the free stable swaps, which would be another multiplier, right? By the way, because Randy just sent me a link the other day, actually, that a Defiant article, and I can just find it and put it in the chat here, but of Sui had made their swaps for stables entirely free. Like no gas, no swap fees, like 100% free. And they got like 65 billion in volume in 5 days, which is like, to put that into comparison, THORChain's total swap volume since 2021 is about $125 billion in volume. So they've done almost half of our volume in 5 days just by making it free. Right now, to be fair, like their design, which I don't know all the specifics of it, but I can tell you right now, just from from reading the article, it is non-sustainable because they're paying all the fees, right? Swap fees, the gas fees, and they're subsidizing every trade that comes through there. And when you make something free like that, obviously the demand is high, right? Because who doesn't like free trades? And they're doing $65 billion in volume, whatever, and they're paying out money with every trade and burning money with every trade in an unbounded kind of way. To me, that sounds more like a marketing ploy than an actual, like, fundamental change to system. The design that I've put together, and there's a GitLab issue if people can read, they want to get the specifics of it, but the design that I've put together is sustainable. It is a net neutral to THORChain itself in terms of the operation of the network itself. It should create more volume in our non-stable trades, in our Bitcoin trades and Ethereum trades, just naturally by getting us more integrations and stuff. So we should see not just a greater increase in our volume, but in theory, we should see a greater increase in our revenue generation as well. Probably not on day one. It would take, probably months for that to be realized, to be honest with you. But it should have a net positive effect on THORChain's ecosystem as a whole by getting a lot more volume, and it should be a lot more fees as well. Not one-to-one, but probably more volume than fees. But that would also be a multiplier on our major KPIs like fee generation and swap volume and all these kind of things. So like, I'm super bullish on like just these 3 features alone are all like, to me, they're all pretty big. I perceive them to be very big game changers. And so I'm very excited to see them roll out over the next like few months and to see how much fruit they can bear.
The stablecoin one should be great, should be good, because this isn't just a random idea you came up with. This is based on feedback that we've heard from wallets and other aggregators and whatever. Like we've had some big wallet. Well, I know one big wallet in particular. Their whole focus is stablecoin payments. Like that's, so
what they do.
What does, yeah. And so like, okay, how do we angle THORChain to help that? Right. And this is how we do it. And so it's our foot in the door. Then you had, I think, another aggregator just who eyes lit up when you mentioned the feeless stable to stable swaps, and like, wow, that could be huge.
Yeah.
So so what you want to hear from the prospect, like, wow, this is exciting. This is what I want. Instead of trying to convince them why it's good for them, we're giving them what they want, what they're excited about.
So, what that very few other protocols could even do. And if they are doing like Sui's doing, or Sui's doing, however you pronounce it correctly, they're bleeding money doing what they're doing. It's obviously that's not a sustainable thing, but what we're doing here is sustainable. It fundamentally changes what we can do. And even to, I was talking to one large wallet a while back, and we were trying to convince them to integrate with us directly, and they already have are using us through an affiliate out there, and they were just like, well, why are we going to spend the time, money, and energy in the code and all this stuff to integrate you when we're already integrated with you, right? Like, we already have you. Why would we want to spend the time to do it? And to be able to say like, well, you can use this as a thing for your users of saying free swaps, right? Like, you saying that to your users and to your potential people that you're trying to convince to use your wallet, you get free swaps. Because if you go through the affiliate, it's not going to be free, because the affiliate's going to take out some chunk out of it, whatever that number is going to be, right? Depending on the affiliate. And so the idea hopefully is just get more direct trades, which will just get us more volume, because we can be more competitive against the other providers on there. Because if the only way we're getting through you is through an affiliate, well, the affiliate's taking 10 bips or whatever the hell the number might be. And so how can we be, comparatively competitive with other providers who maybe already be direct when the affiliate's taking out, 10 bips or whatever the hell the number might be. And
I love this. I think, go ahead,
Denny.
Okay, I was gonna say, I think this is great with every point of sale application in the world. Like, that's me coming. I mean, everyone's gonna be trying to make one of these things, and if we have free stable to stables, right, swaps, relatively speaking, are as free as they possibly can be, that's awesome. That's great, because a lot of people are gonna use stables, and then if they have THORChain in the wiring, if they decide to use Litecoin, Bitcoin, Doge, or whatever, then that obviously is going to be a great swap for us. So I think it's just a great foot in the door. There is a question here formation. He says, why should I invest in RUNE? What is the benefit of buying RUNE? We can't give investment advice on this show, but I highly encourage you to just watch and listen to everything we're saying, check out the materials that we give, and for you to come up with your own conclusions of why THORChain is powerful technology. But we can't tell you to buy RUNE. We won't do that. I mean, use your own mind. You know, we're not going to sucker you into that. All right.
Yeah.
It's not really suckering in my opinion.
You
but
should
know what I
use
mean.
THORChain.
I think so.
Yeah, when we
And
go
the first thing to
live,
do
go
is
swap on it.
just
Why
try
don't you
it.
when it goes live, you play with it, and maybe you can see maybe some reasons why RUNE's a pretty awesome asset. I don't know. Kenton, you were going to say something. I'll kick it back to you, good sir.
Just you mentioned, Chad, the stable to stables being attractive, for us to get new integrations. I'm wondering if like you mentioned, why integrate with us directly versus the aggregator? I wonder if the dynamic fee and the referral fee will help with that too. Because the dynamic
Yep.
fee, you just said, it's really, like with SwapKit, for example, it's really hard to apply the dynamic fee to SwapKits, to their integrations.
Yep.
Whereas we have a direct, then the direct integration can experience our dynamic fee, and they can also get a rev-share. Whereas with the aggregator, the rev-share and the dynamic fee goes to the aggregator, not to the ultimate front end. So
Yep.
hopefully those three things combined can really help us get more direct integrations. Yeah.
Yep. I'm
I love
hoping. I think it poises us as well. And again, like integrations are slow processed. Anybody who's been doing biz dev for a while knows this. You don't get integrations take it's a multi-month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. There have been people I've been having conversations with on and off for years that we still haven't quite landed in some cases. So like it's not going to be an immediate thing, to be fair, but it should be helpful over the longer term.
Yeah.
So
I think you just I think you guys are doing great because you just keep talking to them, and every time you talk to them, what do you need? What are you looking for? What's your pain point? And then that gives you ideas, Chad, on what to change and add to THORChain. And eventually, one of these features, and for someone's is going to love it. It's going to click. Like you mentioned, SwapKit loved the referral fee thing, right?
Yeah.
And that could click with them and really dramatically improve their business, which improves our business. This other wallet and aggregator, they love the stable to stable thing. They jump all over it, right? So, this is what good business development is about: is talking to your potential clients and seeing what do they actually want, what are their pain points.
Yeah.
So yeah,
That's what I personally am not I don't really love business development personally. It's just not my area of expertise or knowledge or skill set for that matter, I would suppose. But now that I'm more engaged with it, because I'm working with Randy and I'm working with you, Kenton, on this kind of stuff, I get to have those direct communications with our customer base, our clients and infrastructure and partners and whatnot, and I get to learn what the pain points are, what they value, what they don't value, what would blow their brains, and what would they would shrug their shoulders about, and that kind of information is actually super valuable. Like that's where. It was from those conversations did dynamic fee come. It's from those conversations where rev-share kind of came. It's like all these ideas come from having those conversations to figuring out what we can do to position ourselves better with our affiliates or partners or wallets or whatever, to have more volume, more integration, better relationship with land more, partners, all that stuff. It's like it arms me in a matter of seconds, so I can think of really interesting solutions to solve these kind of like very difficult problems.
and that's how real sales work. Like a lot of people think sales is about convincing someone to buy your product. Like that person who can sell ice to an Eskimo. Like that's not, those type of salesmen, they exist, but they're like, kind of like a rare breed, and that's not how you can't scale with that. Like sales for the vast majority of the world in all industries is building a relationship with someone who feels comfortable telling you their pain point. This is what I'm struggling with. This is what I need help with, is digging into that, and then how your product fixes that for them. And so it becomes an engineering problem. So for Chad, I'm classical. I'm an engineer as well by training. So like, it turns, when we start viewing it like that, it turns sales into an engineering problem. Like, okay, what is the real problem here, and then how do I fix it?
Mhm.
And And that's what most people want. They want a solution to their problem. They don't want to be sold. They don't want to be convinced, arm barred and pressured into doing something, right? They want to come out of it feeling like, I actually came out of this well. I
Mhm.
got a solution to a problem. And I think we're doing that. I think you guys are doing it. I think the integration, the partners, people coming to us for APIs, and the blockchains that want to integrate on THORChain, like, they're excited. They
Yep.
want to. This is like we're not pushing them into this. They're asking us for this, right? And so it's great. It knows that's how we know we have a good product.
Mhm.
Um, so
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna hit the ground running, right? Like get the network back going. We had so many before this crazy thing happened. We had so many things in the pipe just ready to go. It was so
Yeah,
exciting,
yeah.
and they're still there, right? And you
They're still
guys,
there.
yeah, and
We're
they're
still working on Monero, by the way. That's still, that's still
man,
on.
let's have a Monero update, Chad, if you don't mind. People would love to hear that, I'm sure. How's it going?
Uh, Monero's going well. We've got some Monero on chainnet that's been tested some swaps, some liquidity adds with removes, churns, like all kind of the basic functionality of what a coin more or less does on THORChain. All seem to be working good. There's a few bugs to work out, nothing too crazy. There's a few people working on that, myself as being one of them. Um, um, I have been working on in the background. I've been working on Huginn and making some improvements to its code, and I pointed it at Serai, which took a while, and because Huginn's now when it does code audits, it takes literally weeks for it to finish a code audit. It's not like a prompt and then 30 minutes it comes back and it has some answers. It literally takes weeks of processing of token burns, almost literally continuously to actually do a full code audit of a code base. And it just finished the Serai one, which we're using, and it found almost 500 issues. Of those, about 18 were P0s. And of course I'm actually in the process now of copying all those issues over to the Serai, the upstream Serai thing, so that Luke's aware of all those issues that's been discovered. But so that's been also I've been working in the background is doing a deep code audit through advanced AI techniques that takes weeks to execute upon, to actually find every possible issue we can possibly find with the current models we have today. And so they found a bunch of things. Those work can be being patched. But I still think we're on pace to get it done. Monero launched and ready within a month or so, about a month after we get trading again, probably within a month after that point. That's assuming we don't find any significant bugs that require a change to 3.20. I don't think that's going to be the case. I haven't seen anything yet that makes me feel that way. So I think we'll be able to do it just from a 3.19.2 a change possibly, but I still think we're getting Monero done about a month after we get trading again, and Zcash should be landing too within a week or two after trading is done. Trading
Love
is
it.
and the trade is going again.
And so just for the record, so everyone hears this, we are testing XMR continuously. And right now, despite maybe some little hiccups here and there, real layer 1 to layer 1 swaps of let's say Bitcoin or stable coins, Dash, all these different things in and out of XMR. So those assets to XMR, XMR to those assets. And that is permissionless, no KYC, done decentralized. That is working, and it is repeatable, and it is going relatively well despite the bugs. So that's the gist, right, Chad?
Mm-hmm. Right.
yeah.
Correct.
How
Just maybe make it
exciting!
clear to people that's happening on StageNet on a
Yes,
test environment. Not
testnet environment.
this is the main, despite the THORChain being down. That's the main chain, I guess, or the.
The chainnet environment. StageNet is a different one, but
Oh, I'm sorry.
chainnet that's fine.
Okay.
We have two different staging environments. One's for testing, just general Thor node changes and bifurc changes, and chainnet specifically to test new chains that we're trying to get added to the system. So when I say that we've tested swaps, trades, add liquidity, withdraw liquidity, churn, all that kind of stuff, we've seen all that happen on chainnet, which uses real assets, real XMR tokens to do all that, right? So we know technically, I guess technically you could swap on Chainnet right now and swap for some Monero if you were so inclined. Although I would not necessarily, recommend that by any stretch of the imagination. But theoretically, that could be possible because technically it's online, and if you knew what the addresses are, you could totally do it. But again, I wouldn't recommend it. But yes, like it actually works. We already confirmed that real ads is a real Monero with all the ring signatures and the complexities around 8-byte memos and the complexities around all that stuff that was just like such a pain in the ass to get around. It actually, in the end of the day, it actually does work. It actually does function.
Unreal. That's
Yeah.
so exciting. I'm really looking forward to that. The world needs it like never before. And we've been talking to a lot of teams, you guys. You've seen the podcast on Saturday. For those who are not aware, you can go on THORChain on our YouTube and look at a variety of different episodes. We have really gone through privacy chain, privacy. We want to add them all. XMR is the very beginning, right?
Yeah.
Add Zcash, add Firo, add X chain. We're talking to some teams right now. I pulled Kenton into another privacy changes in Telegram the other day, and Randy. So it's really exciting, guys. I'm really looking forward. I think THORChain becoming the ultimate permissionless privacy DEX is like the perfect product market fit for us. 100%. I just cannot tell you how excited and how much I love this.
So are you explaining why someone should buy RUNE then, or?
Well, actually, the guy messaged something else. I'm gonna post it. So the same guy asking why he should invest in RUNE. He then goes and says this: I use THORChain even without having RUNE. That's the trick. Why should some average Joe get involved in having RUNE? Looks like RUNE as a token has no meaning beyond being a governance token. And I'd actually peak formation. If you don't mind me saying, I actually have it completely backwards. RUNE is everything except a governance token. So just because you own RUNE, you can't vote with it. You can't do anything with it, right? You got to put it into network, put it to work. So if you want to vote with your RUNE, you have to run a node. You have to bond upwards of 1 million RUNE to get a node into the network.
Yeah, it's the node that votes, not the RUNE.
It's a node that votes.
It's 1 vote per node, not 1 vote per RUNE.
That's right. So you get, whether your node has 500,000 RUNE or 1 million RUNE, you have 1 vote.
Yeah.
And you might be thinking, well, why would I spend that money on RUNE to run a node to get 1 vote? Because that node collects yield. So all the revenue, all the commissions that occur on THORChain get split between nodes and pools. And so running a node, having bonding to a node, you get your pro rata portion of those fees.
Yeah.
And so this is what gives RUNE, the RUNE token utility, is that you can buy it to earn fees, earn yield.
Yeah.
And those fees come from the swaps, right? People have to pay the fee to use THORChain is paid in the RUNE token. And which you rightly, accurately, interestingly mentioned is you don't need to own RUNE to do a trade on THORChain, which is huge.
By design.
But it is, pardon?
By design.
By design.
Yeah, by design. But a small portion of your trade is deducted to buy RUNE to pay the fee to the network. And then that's what gets distributed to the various network participants. And so this is what gives RUNE some intrinsic value. And then the other one is all the liquidity pools are paired with the RUNE token. So as long as there's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever tokens in these liquidity pools, by definition, by the way, a liquidity pool is 50-50 by dollar value, the 2 assets, 50-50 Bitcoin and RUNE, 50-50 Ethereum and RUNE. So as long as there's Bitcoin and Ethereum and other outside crypto in the pools, RUNE has like a baseline minimum value. The market cap can't go any lower than that, basically. So that as well gives RUNE some value. So this is what makes RUNE useful and have has utility. How you value that is up to you, like Denny said, right? We're not going to get into how you should value
overbought or
it.
underbought.
Yeah, exactly. But THORChain, the protocol, the exchange, cannot function without the RUNE token. It is impossible. Whereas just a governance token, those protocols can work just fine if those governance tokens go to zero. Those
Yep.
tokens have nothing to do with the way the protocol functions. So that's the major difference between RUNE and basically 99.99% of crypto out there. That's what got me into it. This is one of the things that sold me, is that this token actually has utility. Like, this is the intrinsic to how this protocol works. So,
I think he had a visitor knocking on the
Di-
door. I saw the background.
okay. I thought maybe we just blew his mind and blew up his computer video at the same time.
I think, like, for me, what I love about, like, this project, or this token, if you want to call it that, is that, like, there's very few blockchains in the world that have reached product market fit. You could probably count them on one hand, right? There's most projects out there are just shoveling hopium. Oh, we are going to be great because we can do 200,000 transactions per second, and one day the New York Stock Exchange is going to come on us and trade, and one day Africa is going to use us for blah 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 blah. Like this, or XRP has a thing about banks using XRP to settle between banks. And it's all hopium. It's all like, what we hope to happen is this, and it'll be really big if banks adopt XRP for this purpose. And it would be, to be fair, in that sense. But, like, that's what you're kind of like betting on, or gambling on, if you want to call it gambling, is that for us, it's a lot more different. Like, it's not about hopium. Like, we're not talking about what we will be into the future. And I can talk about the roadmap. I can talk about what our intentions are. Then we can talk about that. But what I push more emphasis on is who we are, what have we done, and how do we achieve that. And so we are providing a service that is actually really used. People actually want to use the service, which means they will spend actual, dollars and cents, so to speak, to use this service, because we solve a problem that people want to solve. That's why, from what I've seen, THORChain is one of the biggest revenue generating protocols in the world, top 10, right? In terms of actually generating revenue, not minting tokens for revenue, which is what you see Bitcoin do and a lot of other, coins do, but actually generate revenue from real people doing real trades, or sometimes bots in some cases, but whatever, right? It generates real value, right? And so as we're generating real value, there's more reason to hold RUNE, or more reason to become a node operator, because it's actually in the real terms, like, that you can measure and see on chain what I'm talking about. And as the price goes up, the pools become deeper, which means trade volume inherently increases, in my opinion, because ARBs need more liquidity to move the price, 1%, the pool price 1% or 2%, because it's twice the size as it was, yesterday, or whatever the number is. And so you get more trade volume naturally as a part of that, but also by having deeper pools, you get more trade volume because there's the prices, it has less slip when you make the trade, and so you actually get better execution, or faster execution in our case with streaming swaps. So it's just like, what I really appreciate about this protocol versus like 98% of other protocols in the industry is this one's actually real. It actually has a real product or service that people actually want to pay money for, and they actually do pay money for, which is the reason why we see, like, such a high volume of trades and revenue that's being done on the protocol. That's what gets me excited about it personally.
Yeah.
Likewise, and I think I'll just add on to that is so for those who are unfamiliar with THORChain, one thing I like to remind people, especially people who are new, who have never heard about THORChain or just used it, never really took the deep dive, is that THORChain is so incredibly complex. I mean, it is a huge amalgamation of code between churning and swaps and Bifrost and this and that. It's all very complicated. Real layer one, again, real layer one is no joke. It is very hard, but it is what you must do, right? And so a lot of people like to call other protocols our competitors, but in terms of design, they are not competitors. They do not do what we do. The only one that is like us, truthfully, is Maya Protocol, and they are a fork of THORChain. They are a friendly fork of THORChain, right? We do not have any centralized aspect of THORChain. We have no third-party dependency. We don't rely on one particular oracle. Everything is decentralized nodes, all run daemons of all the chains that we support, and that was from the very beginning. Now, that's very hard to do, right? To maintain that ethos. But we're not going to break on this ethos. And we are now getting to the point, 2026, we started in 2021 with ChaosNet. We graduated to mainnet about a year later or something like this. We are now getting to the point where this stuff is working really well and reliably and reproducibly. And we are finding unique advantages because we support exogenous assets on THORChain, like Chad mentioned, where we can have these interesting, unique fee models, and we can offer all these specific things, right? Where you have a protocol that may be giving free stable to stable swaps, but it's a loss for them. They have to cover it. With THORChain's design, it all runs on the basic premise that we have real exogenous assets that are custodied by a decentralized validator group, which are arbed by individuals that are often anonymous. This works. This is the market that it was meant to be. There are no central authorities besides the nodes themselves, of which is a decentralized set, which determine the future of this protocol, all based on raw incentives. It is a beautiful, incredible, wonderful form of engineering. It's an engineering miracle. It's been really hard, and we've gotten to the point. So that's what THORChain is. And I encourage anyone who does not know what THORChain, do the deep dive. Take the effort to figure it out. It's going to take you a while, but once you understand, you will understand why THORChain really stands apart from the field. So,
Yep.
Rant over, scene over. I love THORChain. Okay, what else do we got, you guys? Let's see.
I want to talk about protocol and liquidity. I don't know.
Sure.
Should we answer a question in the audience first? Is there?
Well, we had Funny ask some questions about getting THORN wallet on THORChain.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe we'll cover that real quick because they've been very patient. Thank you, Funny.
I'll just say we're talking to everyone, and so like I mentioned this the other day, I think it was in the Telegram group chat about. I don't think we should be telling publicly exactly who we're talking to and how far we are in talks, because we don't want our competition getting in there like a sleazeball and trying to edge us out, and we don't want to affect whatever negotiation we have going on. For example, say let's pretend say we are talking to Ton, and and then people go and promote it, talk about it. Oh, the Ton's gonna integrate THORChain, and then they come back to us like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what? No, we haven't said yes. And then maybe that puts them off, and they're like, screw you guys, right? So, I don't think it's right. I don't think it benefits THORChain in the long run to be saying exactly who we're talking to and what stage you're at. But Chad, you probably know better than me, but Randy's he's reached out to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's trying to get connections everywhere.
Shout out to Randy.
Yeah. So all wallets are on the table. To be honest, guys, it'd be more helpful if you have an obscure wallet that no one knows about, and you can say, "Have you heard of them?" That would be helpful to us to be like, "No, we haven't." Okay, maybe we can reach out. Maybe you can introduce us. But the big ones are kind of obvious, right? We're trying, right? So, yeah.
I guess I probably have a Telegram group that I'm in for probably every wallet you could probably name off the top of your head. And so we have relationships with all of them at different phases, at different places, and some are going nowhere and some are going somewhere. But getting more integrations is obviously a key thing, and like I said before, I'm getting more involved in that sense of the protocol rather than just staying on the engineering side of things.
Absolutely. Okay, I think maybe it's time now to transition to POL. Kenton, I'm going to put what Max has said on the screen. POL 30%.
30%.
Go.
Love it, Max.
Woo!
So
I'm all about that, son.
Yeah, I'm not really seeing anyone else talk about it. Maybe we all already agree. But just to recap and remind people if you didn't listen last week, we on is it ADR 28th, the recovery from the exploit. I think in the ADR it says 7.5% POL, 2.5% burn. But then everyone keeps telling me that, well, we'll talk about these numbers later and we'll adjust them after the fact. I'm happy to leave the burn at 5%. I'm happy to move it to 0. I'm not going to push either way. I'll let the community decide on that one. I feel very strongly we got to go to at least 25% on the POL. So we need to get back in balance the fees going to nodes versus fees going to the pools. We've had, I want to say 8 months now, the fees have been slammed towards nodes because like the incentive pendulum is basically broken. It doesn't work anymore now that we removed the hard cap. And so we're perpetually over the cap. So the pendulum has fees going towards nodes, which feels great as a node operator and bond provider because we make more money. Great. But we can't grow. The pools aren't growing. We need the pools to grow. Like Chad mentioned earlier, the bigger the dollar value of the pools, the harder they are to move to ARB, means more trading, means more fees. Like we need liquidity, right? To have more fees.
Kenton, we have some people who are new watching this. What is the POL? Maybe just take a second to explain.
Protocol owned liquidity. So yeah, you're right. So originally we had fees going to liquidity pools to encourage people to deposit their own money into the pools so they could earn fees. And that's how we would grow our liquidity. The capital of crypto that people are trading against. And the bigger that is, the bigger the trades we can handle, the more fees we collect. But now those pools are getting no fees. So there's no reason for anyone to deposit any money into the pools. So the pools are just stagnating or shrinking. And we want them to grow. And so we can either fix the incentive pendulum so that we start sending fees to the liquidity providers again, which I think we'll generally kind of agree it's just not enough to incentivize people to deposit into the pools with the synths on some of these pools and screwing up the LP returns. It's a math nightmare. So what we've kind of, I think, generally seems like the community is generally on board is instead of sending the fees to liquidity providers, the protocol keeps those fees but deposits it into the pool itself and starts becoming an owner of the liquidity pool. So protocol and liquidity. And this is liquidity in the pool that will never be withdrawn. It's there forever, owned by the protocol, which I really like. I like that because it makes us more stable and it should make the pools more stable. And talking about the synth leverage, we have a lot of legacy LP providers who have been through hell hanging on for years now who are basically like they're wiped out. They're underwater. As soon as they get back to even, they're yanking. Maybe even 50%, whatever. As soon as they're up some amount, they're going to withdraw. We need to replace that liquidity, right? What are we replacing it with? And like the simple, easiest answer is a protocol and liquidity. We don't have to worry about trying to go and raise money and convince people to deposit in the pool. We're just doing it already. And
every block,
and it just happens naturally. And then these pools can just keep growing. The more fees we are, the bigger the pools. The more fees, bigger the pools. Maybe this is how we kickstart the liquidity black hole again.
yeah,
The bigger POL. Oh, go ahead, read it, Denny.
He says, let me bring it up again. Says with bigger POL protocol and liquidity tomorrow, 1% burn could easily be bigger than the 5% burn yesterday. Let that sink in. Very true, because the liquidity, because be deeper, more arbitrage volume alone, right? I mean, yeah, there's a lot of compounding effects. Chad, what do you think? What are you thinking about the percentage for POL? Where do you stand on that?
I see it maybe a little bit more in a more gray kind of way personally. So the incentive pendulum is not entirely it's working as designed, right? Like it's like we have too much things we're securing and not enough security, right? That is working specifically as it's designed to incentivize. The idea is to incentivize either have LPs leave in a normal circumstance that would happen, right? But if you're underwater on your LP position or it's worth close to zero, then like there's no reason to withdraw, really, right? Like, that's the first thing. If we get into a bear market, let's imagine that later in 26 we go into a bull market, not a bear market. Then, as I would suspect, as it historically is true, that RUNE would outperform Bitcoin and Ethereum just because it's a smaller market cap asset than larger market cap assets. And the incentive pendulum would be working again, right? If RUNE goes to $5 or $10, whatever the number, I'm not sure what the number would be, but whatever number it is, then that would shift and there would be more security than assets, right? And the pendulum would swing towards the pools in a matter of speaking. And also the other kind of color I would add is that like 30% now is, what is 30% in a month right now? I would guesstimate that to be what, like 300K, 400K, something like this. I don't know if Kenton, you have an idea of what is the marketing makes 5%, right? So what is 5% right now?
I think we get maybe around 40 or 50 grand a month.
Yeah. So
So
40,
That'd be a lot.
let's call it 50, and if it's 25%, that's like $250,000, $300,000 or in that range, right? But you get into a bull market, right? That number is going to be, I would expect, without having any crystal balls to speak of, but I would suspect that number would be a lot significantly higher, right? A lot higher. And so then you'd be generating a lot of money for the pools, which is, it's also good too. But we could get to a place where in that hypothetical future where like we say 30% is actually, maybe it's too much in that scenario where we're in a bull market, it's generating, not just hundreds of thousands, but millions of dollars per month, right? And then maybe the nodes can vote again and say, okay, let's go from 30% to 15% or something like this, right?
That's really, yeah, that's a cool idea. Like if you had a new chain, right, Chad? Like if we could be so high, like you get a new chain. Let's say Quai is this new community. We just met them. They add and say, hey, you could just throw 25K in the pool, and then with the POL alone, if we like slung it, like we could get a really good depth, like super quick. And so their commitment to depositing LP and withdrawing the LP could be like the time frame could be really short.
Could be really short to that point. In that scenario.
How cool would that be?
Yeah. And I think this is kind of like in the back of my mind, one of my kind of devious plans, so to speak, is that the dev fund right now is getting 5% and the marketing fund's getting 5%, which right now is just like, it's 40, 50 grand a month, something like this, which is, not anywhere close to the amount of money that we spend on dev, that the treasury is supplying more funds in that kind of context. But in a hypothetical future, when we go into some bull market later this year or next year or whatever the next bull market's going to be, then that 5% is actually going to be a lot more money. And when we go to the next bear market after the bull market, the dev fund will have a stockpile of cash, to help us get through the bear markets where you're not making as much. And so my hope is that, while the 5% now is not very much, after the bull market, it should be a lot, and enough money to supply the devs what they need to actually support the ecosystem as a whole, hopefully, right? And that 5% is probably maybe the correct number. Now, I would, in order to actually support the devs 100% for the dev fund, we would need to increase that number to 25% or whatever, something like this. But I'm not asking for that. I'm not, advocating for that in this moment. I think 5% is fine for right now. We have the treasury. The treasury can support us, easily for years to come. I'm not trying to push that on that yet. But my hope is that after the next bull market, the dev funds could be flush with enough cash to get through the next bear market, and then the treasury can more or less just kind of go away. And the protocol can become self-sufficient without some sort of external entity being the treasury to fund all of its interests, and capital and all these things. And so, and I think the same thing, marketing's not making a lot of money right now, but in the future they could be making significantly more, and they could spend that money on, I don't know, KOLs or whatever, ads or whatever the right thing is. I know zero about marketing, so don't ask me what it should be on. But, and so the 25, my point is that the 25% or 30% is probably like a correct number today, but I would submit that it would be too much in a more bullish market. But I think setting for now for 25 or 30% for the time being is probably enough. As Kenton has said in the past, If an operator is not making enough money to cover their basis, they can increase their fees from 20 bips to 30 bips or whatever the appropriate number of bips would be for that operator. Don't have much of a problem with that. And then once we move towards a opt-in chain security, which is still on the roadmap for later this year, that would make it a lot cheaper for operators to operate and to make more strategic decisions about which chains they want to support or not support, to make it, more optimal, to find more optimal kind of investment strategies or operational strategies rather, to be able to, to maximum output, in terms of how an operator operates, and especially compared against other operators who want to get bond providers, and they want the highest yield possible to get bond providers, but it costs money and all that kind of stuff, right? So I'm fine with a 25% or a 30% if operators are okay with that.
So like, but if we go into a bull market and in theory is plausible RUNE can outperform, then we get way over bonded. And the way the pendulum would work is nodes would get less yield and even more yield would go to the pools.
Correct.
So, but you just said we may not need that much POL or, yield going towards pools. So then where does it go? We go back to the nodes. And so like, for me, I kind of think because we're moving away from the hard cap, we're moving away from economic security, right? And so that's why I like the idea of fixing the fees towards nodes, fixing the fees toward the pools, because then the size of the bonded RUNE, the size of the pools can fluctuate. The fee split is fixed, and the size of the pools and nodes can fluctuate better. Because I would think in a bull market, we want to maintain like healthy yield going to the nodes. We want more node operators. We want to get more nodes in the network.
Yeah.
Um,
But nodes would be making a boatload of money. That's, a single node would be making potentially multi-millions in a month, potentially.
Yeah.
Right. In that scenario, if that scenario comes up or whatever. But you could also make the argument that, like, if you don't want the LPs to leave, you were talking about the LPs, RUNE gets to $5 or whatever, and LPs start to leave, right? If you kill the incentive pendulum, then yes, they're probably going to leave because the POL is not giving yield to the LPs. The POL is giving yield to the POL, right? And so if you don't want LPs to leave, then give them a yield, right? And so the incentive pendulum kind of has to stick around for that purpose, right? To ensure that LPs or at least have some incentive to stick around because, in effect, in that moment, they've been made whole again to some degree, right? Because the RUNE price is back up or whatever. It's generating more money because we're in a bullish market or so. And maybe they want to stick around and continue to earn yield, or maybe they don't. Maybe they want to withdraw, and if they want to withdraw, they should be able to withdraw, in my opinion. But the question is, like, do we want to create the incentive as a community and as a protocol to keep them around, or just say, don't really care, don't really care, incentivize you to stick around or to leave. We're leaning on the POL these days. We don't really care about, what's it called? They're through the name of it, but like, we don't want to pay for capital to be around, right? Mercenary capital is the word I'm looking for. Mercenary capital. We don't really care about that. The POL is the answer, and we're just gonna go all in on the POL mentality and just have the money go in and just never come out effectively.
As an LP, sorry,
go
Kenton,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Denny.
Oh, okay. Well, as an LP, I'm one of those people. That's why I laughed earlier, guys. I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't laugh, but I laughed because I am one of those people. Okay. So, I've talked with so many LPs. LPs have been great. I mean, just to do a little history, brief history check. When THORChain had a rough moment in 2021, right, during ChaosNet, we were paused, right, and we went back online. The LPs did not withdraw, and they stayed in there. They stayed true. They believed in the mission. So we love our LPs 100%. In my opinion, I think the LP model, I think it can work 100%, but to me, it's just based on everything that's happened. I think it's much more cognitively easy to have a POL model only. And I think it's ultimately more secure because it's so predictable. And like when you have a fixed number going to POL, you can model it, like the depth is just always going to increase, right? And you don't have the ambiguity of worrying about someone withdrawing their liquidity. Now they could add their liquidity, of course, as you mentioned, but to me, it seems so much easier to calculate and to educate someone on the third parties. Like if you want to earn yield, you have to acquire RUNE and either become a bond provider and bond to a node like Kenton, like so many other people, or you can take the opportunity to become a node operator, which many people are doing currently. I think that model just seems much more stable and feeds more into our ethos of no third-party contingencies. Now, nodes are third parties, but they're directly incentivized to function, in a way that's good for the protocol. LPs can come and go. They're more mercenary, I guess is the word. I really like the idea of POL. I think it makes everything simpler. And as someone who's pretty much switched entirely to being a bond provider, I can't go back to being an LP after being a bond provider. It's just, to me, just is so much easier, so much simpler. I don't have to worry about what prices are going to dynamically do in relation to each other. I got my node operator. I'm with Kenton, for example, one of my node operators. I like Kenton. He does a good job, blah, 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 blah. It works. And I think that's my opinion on it. I think it's just a better model, but Kenton, you were going to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I understand where Chad's going. And why should we incentivize the LPs to leave, right? We should want to incentivize them to stay. We want liquidity. So that makes sense. Maybe I was thinking maybe one scenario is we go this POL route for a year or two type thing, and we get the pools get, POL grows quite a bit. Room price gets to $5, whatever the number is that all the LPs are backed even. And then we're like, okay, now we should get rid of the synths, right? And let's remove the synth leverage. Let's cancel it out. And then maybe at that time, we're like, okay, we're going to stop fees going to POL. We'll go back to fees going to liquidity providers. The POL is going to be a liquidity provider, so it will continue to collect fees on its pro rata, and then so will the other LPs. So that might encourage them to stay. I'd be honest, though, I'd be shocked if anybody stays. I can't imagine we can't. There's I don't think there's enough fees in the world to keep.
I think more will
these
stay
guys.
than you think, just because I think for some people, for some percentage, who are LPs, they've written it off. In their minds, it's gone, and they're done, and they exited. They're not even listening to this podcast right now.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Maybe, yeah, that's likely true.
They've exited. They gave up on THORChain, 2 years ago or a year ago, whatever the number is, and they're out, right? And to them, their position is gone, right? And so it will just sit there basically forever because they just forgot that it even exists to begin with.
Yeah. But when they do remember, or they
If they
just,
remember.
if they remember, but let's say, if they don't remember, we don't have to worry. Why give them fees?
Right.
They forgot about it.
Right.
Right.
They're not going to do anything. You can't convince them to leave, and you can't convince them to stay. You can't convince them to do anything.
They just forgot about it
because
But
they're
let's
not
say
even going
they-
to listen to this podcast or anything like it.
But I
That's funny.
think the most plausible, most likely scenario is, like you said, Chad, people just kind of writing it off, giving it up. The bull market will come back, and then we all kind of go looking through our old wallets, whatever. And I remember that project. I'll go check it out. And they're going to see their LP position at, oh, hey, it's back up. I'm only 20% underwater. This is great. I'm going to take it, better than nothing, get on with my life. No hard feelings. But we've just been paying them X percent of fees over the last several months, only for them just to yank it. And I feel pretty strongly, like knowing human nature, that's what people just hold on to break even, then they leave. And no amount of yield or promises or code change is going to convince them. And so to me, if we want to get yield back onto LPs, it's to attract brand new ones. And then I think that's the conversation we have to have. Is that actually the model we want to go after? And I don't think so. I think POL is much better because it's just, look at the current LPs. A lot of people shouldn't have done it in the first place. They just didn't understand the risks. And TCB has talked about this so many times that like liquidity pools in general in crypto just do not make money. Like it's just not like very few pools or very few people actually make money providing liquidity.
Yeah, the only
And
people who make money, not the only people, but is in a concentrated liquidity system, you are running a bot, and you're one of the top 2% people running a bot, and those people can make money in AMMs. Everybody else kind of gets the shaft in one form or another. And that's
yeah,
true with Uniswap, from what I understand. That's true with Osmosis, from what I understand. Um, I think for us in the beginning days of THORChain's history, when AMMs were kind of new, right? Like
Right.
Bancor was the first AMM I've ever recall, and they launched maybe, I want to say 6 months before we did, or maybe a year at most. And so we didn't like have all the data then, right, about what AMMs were or were not, and how they worked over a long period of time between bull markets and bear markets and all the different things. And we tried to use all sorts of like clever kind of tricks, so to speak, not tricks, but literally, but just kind of ideas like impermanent loss protection was one of the earliest forms of this, right? Where we would protect the downside to convince people
Right.
to add liquidity, and we thought because of our CLP, our mathematics is a more fee generation than what Uniswap was using at the time, or Bancor, that it would be more profitable on THORChain than it would be on our competitors. I think it's actually, to be honest, I think that was still true relative to other competitors. It was still more profitable than other AMMs for a host of reasons. But I think myself and JP like over the years have kind of come around to like, it's really hard. Like the nice thing about, LPs is that it's capital that comes in very quickly. The POL is something that builds slowly over a long period of time. And when you're building a protocol, you don't really want to have liquidity next year. You want to have liquidity this year. And that's like the fastest way to achieve that is through AMMs, and people have become LPs, and and that makes a whole lot of sense, in that context. But I think like it's much better, it's much a stronger position for the protocol itself to have to own its own liquidity. And I think the first entity to kind of do this that I can recall at least was, I think it was called Zeus, or something like this. Do you remember that from like 2021? It was something called
Vaguely.
Oh My Zeus, or let me see if I can find it. It was a protocol that went crazy popular. It was like all in the news. I want to say it was Zeus or something close to that. And it was buying its own liquidity. Every time you bought the Zeus token, it would buy its own liquidity, and it would permanently stay in the pools. It eventually exploded because they were saying, "Oh, buying Zeus will give you 1,200% APYs," or the most obnoxiously false claims, or whatever it was at the time. But but from an investor perspective, having LPs is actually a risk because your liquidity can fly away at any time. You know what I mean? And so
Right.
I
and
think I've come around to the idea that like I think probably POL is probably the best way to move forward going forward.
we want people who interact with THORChain to have a positive experience. And if everyone who LPs just ends up losing money, it's a negative experience. They complain. They're out there talking about it. Don't touch that thing, whatever. Like we want the market, the community, the public to be confident when they interact with THORChain. This benefits my life. All right, I'm gonna be a bond provider. I'm gonna get a benefit of it. I'm gonna trade on THORChain. I'm gonna benefit. Everyone goes in these pools thinking they're gonna benefit, and if everyone ends up losing, it's like it just doesn't. We're not. It's very short-sighted, short-termism. Like we're just okay. We're creating some dollars out of these guys, but the reputational damage is just not worth it. And the protocol can bear that cost, right? That burden. You mentioned you're totally right, Chad, about if with having an LP is open for anybody, we could get millions of dollars all at once,
Mhm.
whereas it could take us a year to get that from this POL. But we're already starting with a huge chunk of POL. Like the protocol already owns, I think, basically all of the liquidity right now. It's like $50 million or something.
Right.
And then because of your hard work, ingenuity, you've made THORChain that much more capital efficient. So before, when we thought we needed billions of dollars of liquidity to handle all these trades, now we only need millions of dollars of liquidity to handle all these trades.
Mhm.
And so even with the little liquidity we currently have, we did a $32 million Bitcoin trade a few months ago, the biggest Bitcoin trade in DeFi history. So like, and we can already trade a trade larger than the pool itself. If we got a pool that's $1 million,
Yes.
you can do a $2 million trade on that
You
pool.
can do a $10 million trade.
Yeah. So like, and that's only going to improve with rapid swaps and limit orders and stuff. So, the need for our liquidity is less. And so we can get our dollars in liquidity go a lot further now. So I don't see that as being a big risk about us getting, having enough liquidity. Actually, but to be honest, I see the risk. Like, for example, Monero. Where's the liquidity going to come from in the Monero pool? Yeah, okay, it's going to be seeded with 25, 50 grand, but this pool should be millions of dollars deep, right? We're all excited about it. Treasury is limited, right? You guys can't put the whole treasury into the Monero pool, right? Doesn't make any sense. I think everyone can generally agree. So who's going to put it? Who's going to add to it? Where's it going to come from? And it's got to come from somewhere. So if we can get POL and just hammer out, get this XMR pool up to a few $100 grand, $500 grand as soon as we can, then yeah, I think I'm inclined to think everyone would agree that'd be our priority. Get the Monero pool as big as we can, as quickly as we can. Yeah.
Well, I was thinking, what do we want to attract? And just to back it up a little, for people who are watching, what THORChain is just raw neutral infrastructure. That's what it is. And when we started in 2021, you have infrastructure that is decentralized, permissionless, no KYC. What should the incentive structure? A lot of thought has been put into it, and we've really changed and morphed over the years about what works and what doesn't. I mean, this is literally, we're inventing economic doctrine here. That's what we have essentially done. We have invented an entirely new economic doctrine that has never existed in the history of our species due to the advancements of blockchain technology. It's incredible, right? So what do I want to attract? I actually want to attract developers long-term. So so my short-term POL really high, get lots of liquidity in there, boom, 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 make things deep, make things great. But because we are so capital efficient, thanks to people like Chad with all the various advancements, what's going to come next? Well, we want to add all these different chains. And to back it up a little bit more, right now, every node operator has to run every single daemon of every single chain that we support, or they will get slashed. That's how it's going to be. But if we transition to a opt-in chain client, what my mind does is, well, okay, then we can scale to almost all the chains, maybe. You're right. So then what does that mean? That means we have a scalability issue on the developer side, because all of these chains are going to need to be maintained. So I think short term, what my gut says is, okay, 30% POL, 25%, 20, whatever it is, we get liquidity, we're healthy, we're rolling. We're going to need more developers. We're going to need more maintenance staff. So then you maybe go to the development fund 10%, 12.5%, right? Maybe the yield is so good that the marketing fund goes to 10%.
Long term.
Yeah.
Pardon? What did you say, Chad?
Huginn.
My hope
AI.
is that like the problem with going with many chains is that, like, especially younger chains tend to be more unstable than older chains, right? And so when you start adding, was it Quay or Quai? I don't pronounce it correctly.
Quai.
Or like these, like not that I'm picking on them by any stretch by the mention, but I know nothing. I know nothing about their stability. But like, if they're a more unstable chain, it's expensive from a developer perspective. They're doing more updates more frequently, like how many updates per quarter or month or whatever it is. Like that takes time for developers to pull in the updates.
Gaia.
Gaia, like all of these things, it is a cost on us from a developer resources perspective, and it becomes, harder and harder to maintain uptime on the chains, because we have so many chains, and if any one of these chains have problems or whatever, then that chain no longer trades, and it just becomes a constant thing of problems. And so my hope long term, I don't think we're there yet. My hope is that Huginn becomes a fully autonomous developer that can, maintain the chain clients for us, in an autonomous way, so that so we can do that work without actually doing that work, in a sense.
Yeah, because if one thing goes down, we can't churn, right? If one single chain
Correct.
F's up, we literally cannot churn and rotate vaults. And so
Correct.
that's a pain point for sure.
It's a pain point.
So,
Yep. Right.
yeah. Um, yeah, yeah. I think
Thinking,
AI is the way, the future. It's got to
I
be.
was thinking to Chad about, you mentioned like, what if the pools get too big? We don't really need them to get any bigger. That should become self-evident if the fees per depth ratio continues to go down, right? If we've got all this liquidity, it's only generating 2 basis points per dollar depth or whatever, then okay, we can turn POL off and we slam the yield all the way to nodes. And then now the nodes start feasting because we really want to grow the nodes. And then I don't know if the incentive pendulum could be tweaked instead of like the looking at the size of liquidity, looks at the fees per depth
Yep.
ratio instead of the actual liquidity depth. So maybe we don't have to manage it manually. Maybe it can be done automatically. Um, I was thinking about the pendulum. Maybe the way to fix it is just we have to change the hard cap value, the number, how it's measuring that. And maybe that get it back into balance. And then the fees going to the pool just goes to POL. But
Yep.
the instead of us deciding 25%, 30, whatever, then the pendulum is back working and doing it for us. Just thinking some ideas out loud for, yeah.
Well, I remember you showed us a graph like a couple of months ago on this podcast of like the amount of revenue the protocol generates, or the swap volume that the protocol has, and the price of RUNE, and how those two things are, they're not like one to one. You can, necessarily, but they have some level of correlation to them, right? And so it's an interesting thing of like, well, let's take the free swaps, stablecoin swaps concept for an example. Say we launch that tomorrow, and say it's pretty successful, and say we have $1 billion in trade volume on the first day. I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying hypothetically. And then, from that, the RUNE price would probably, in some sense, pump to some degree, you would think, logically speaking, because the volume just went up by $1 billion a day or whatever, right? Even though the fee generation has not changed yet, the fee generation is the same because the swaps are free, but the RUNE price goes up, right, by some percentage, right? And then the pools go deeper because the RUNE price is up. Let's just say the RUNE price is up 20% that day. I'm just making up random numbers here. The pools can become, deeper. I'm not sure if it's 20% exactly, but probably maybe somewhere in that vicinity of. And all of a sudden, because the pools are deeper, there's more arbitrage volume, there's more trade volume, there's more in the non-stable pools, and those start generating more revenue for the protocol as well. And so, like, my point is that you can make the argument that by making the pools deeper, even if you don't need the liquidity, right, you do inherently, most likely at least, create more trade volume because of the ARBs at the bare minimum, not to mention, faster execution on trades and swaps, and that might improve, swap volume in some sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll find out, right?
Yeah, we'll find out. Like,
yeah.
we'll take real world data, and we'll we'll make decisions based upon what makes logical sense based on the information we have at the time. So what we're talking about now may be kind of old information 6 months from now, when we kind of talk about this again in some form or shape.
I love how we've kind of, and this, I made a change myself, is I no longer think of THORChain as ossifying. I think of it as just now continually to improve and innovate. That's just kind of where my mind is. I've kind of abandoned this idea of THORChain just being boring neutral infrastructure. I just think we still have so much juice to squeeze from this girl, and we're doing it, right? I mean, it's awesome. I love it. We are going to be more reliable infrastructure, of course. That's true, but the market's a dynamic environment, and you got to be dynamic to maintain parity or to succeed general. So, Kenton, go ahead. We're going to say something.
You can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
I'll stop sharing.
No, it's
Okay.
interesting, like, because like that in that graph, like there are times when the price is high, but the volume was relatively low, right? Which would look like that. I'm guessing that was 2021. And then there were
I'll go
more
back to it.
recent times when the price was low, probably because of THORFi or something like that, I'm assuming, but the volume was still there because THORFi didn't actually affect the depth of the pools, right? When things went down, and so the volume was still there. Or
So
maybe
where
you
are
could
you
say,
talking about, Chad? Where? Sorry.
like,
The very
on
beginning, and yeah.
the very
Right
beginning,
there.
I'm sure that's 2021, where
Here?
the
Yep.
orange line is much higher than the blue line, right?
Yeah.
And that's because it's a bull market. People are, going crazy and buying up altcoins and blah, blah, blah. And so prices are maybe embellished or something that based upon their fundamentals, which is what happens in bull markets in general. And then you can see another time, maybe it looks like a year ago or 2 years ago, where the blue lines are higher than the orange line, and that's either it was from some sort of hack that just generated a lot of swap volume from, Bybit or something like it. Or B, the price went down because of some bad news, like THORFi, for example. But THORFi didn't change the depth of the pools. Like, it was, people weren't withdrawn necessarily from the pools, or whatever. And so the volume more or less stayed the same even throughout that kind of stuff. I don't know. It's interesting to hypothecate.
Yeah. I think, well, I've said this before, but in the beginning, when you have something brand new, something really cool in the market, the market's more like a voting machine in terms of popularity, like in politics, like the new shiny politician or whatever, this new thing, everyone loves it. And then over time, it is a weighing machine, more tied to its fundamentals and actual metrics. And now that I think we're really going to turn a corner here, where people have understood with THORChain, because it's just been a nonstop game, or not game, but just a struggle of just misinformation of what THORChain is and why it's different. And now that privacy is becoming a big thing, now that we have the advancements, again, thanks to you, Chad, and other developers coming, I really think now this, like, where THORChain's going to show its true product market fit, where you have things being delisted, but on THORChain, they remain. And that's the whole point. It's the
Yep.
whole point. It's neutral, permissionless economic infrastructure that cannot be turned off on a simple switch by a centralized authority. Done.
Right.
Signed, sealed, delivered. Banking the unbanked, right, Kenton?
That's right. Yeah.
Mhm. Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do we think of government as pollution? What is the solution to pollution, Kenton?
Yeah. Dilution. Yeah.
Dilution.
You guys love that, eh? Pragmatic monkey like that. Yeah.
It's a simple. It's fun, right? It rhymes.
But it's
Things that rhyme
true.
are fun.
Yeah.
Yes.
But it's also, that is the waste industry. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't say government, I should say tyranny, right? I mean, that's what it is, because you shouldn't necessarily. I mean, we'd love governments to use THORChain. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Everyone can use it. It's for everybody. It's not for just anybody. It's for everybody.
I don't view
certain people, I
THORChain
say.
as diluting tyranny or governments. I view us as like a dagger to the heart. Like, we're like,
yeah.
we're beelining it straight in, like, you're, this is a death blow. This isn't,
Yeah, it's standing up for
Yeah.
liberty, self-sovereignty.
That's
Yeah.
right. Kind of like
Yeah.
a slug round out of a shotgun into a propane tank. You know what I mean? Something like that.
Kind
You
of,
know what I mean?
Did you guys see, by the way, I saw news yesterday, I think it was, from Coinbase, that they're going to do stock trading on chain now. Like, for every, you want to buy a Tesla stock or whatever it is, you can do it on chain. I don't know the details of it, because I just saw a tweet. I didn't actually go into the depths of it, but I'm very curious about whether that's KYC'd or not, because I assume that it would be, but I don't know for a fact if it is or not. Because
I
I
would
think
assume so too.
the government wouldn't want some random person in Taiwan or whatever, to own Tesla stock or something like this, not without going through the proper channels.
Correct.
For one thing, but also because, like, that was the thing. And I remember, because I was there at the time, that Do Kwon was served by the federal government at a conference in New York. And I think the thing that he was served for was not that, this is before the whole UST like thing that went down. It was because their Terra platform allows you to buy Tesla stock and SpaceX and various, like, American.
Mirror protocol.
The
right?
Mirror protocol.
Yeah.
And I was myself, didn't the Mirror protocol get in trouble for this? So, like, in order for them to do this, because obviously Coinbase is like a clean player in the sense that they operate with the government rather than against it. So I have to assume that they're doing some sort of KYC, I guess, on the base chain. I'm not really sure how that works, but I don't know if you guys had looked into it.
I have not, but I know they would definitely KYC. They don't want, like a foreign actor, a foreign agent to hold majority share in SpaceX stock. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's
So
opportunity for price manipulation and all sorts of things that can happen. Russia
Well,
can attack, AI companies by mass buying or selling the stock to pump or dump it or whatever.
some bank, I think it's Standard Chartered, there's some article that they put out a price target for Uni to go up to $100 because of RWAs and tokenized stocks
Mm.
one day trading on Uniswap. And so any of the ones that I've seen, and to be honest, guys, I haven't looked that hard into it, but these tokenized stocks, it's all like KYC'd. Like it's not in true DeFi yet.
Right.
I would actually expect they're going to push for that, try and get that done. I don't know how they're going to do it because they're securities. But well, maybe if they're not redeemable, or if you want to be able to redeem them, then you need KYC. Otherwise, you can trade them. I don't know. But
interesting game theory here, actually, now I think about it. Because if you're a company, and a lot of companies control governance in the United States owned by foreign lobbyists. Sorry, guys, that's the way it is. But if I was a company, I would want my stock to be available to the most amount of purchasers, right?
Yes.
So
yes, of course,
Yeah.
exactly.
And have 24-hour trading.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Instead of just like from 8:30 to 6:30, whatever the time span is for the NYSE. But
so I could totally envision a world where these big issuers pressure the government to like unleash the Kraken. Like, let's let our tokens, instead of bringing crypto into permission land, let's get our securities into permissionless land. So yeah, and this has come up before in the past. People ask, we have tokenized stocks on THORChain. It's on a blockchain. It can trade on THORChain. We can have a pool, right? So,
what's funny is like it would actually be pretty profitable for Coinbase to put it as a DEX format. And the reason why I say that is because, as they were saying, is that like every stock is back 1-to-1 with actual stock of Tesla, right? And so if they mint 10,000 shares of Tesla stock on chain, on base chain, whatever chain they're using, I'm assuming it's base chain, and then you put it on a DEX, it'll trade not at market price. It'll trade on the secondary price, right? And that's an arbitrage opportunity that they themselves are the only ones that can really satisfy, because they control the actual stocks underneath the tokens. They could buy more Tesla stock, mint new tokens, still maintain the 1-to-1 ratio between the two things, and then sell it through the DEX, which is because everybody's excited about the SpaceX, IPO, for example, right? Maybe that's a good example. And so the stock is trading at $100, and on DEX is trading at $130. Let's just say hypothetically, which is reasonably could be the case, whatever. Although I have no idea what the actual SpaceX stock actually is today. But like, you could use it as an arbitrage opportunity that they themselves control and own, because they're the only ones that can actually arbitrage that correctly, and so they could actually generate huge amounts of money just from secondary markets speculating on the price of SpaceX.
They could purposely let their prices drift on the DEX so they get fatter returns on the ARB.
Yes.
Sorry, Denny.
No, it's okay. I was just thinking, like, now I'm thinking maybe it'll, with the government, if I was the government, I'm trying to imagine what I would do as the government. Maybe they might have stock classifications at this point.
Kill yourself,
right?
If you do that?
I would, yes, 100%, because I could not live with myself, 100%. I would not be here, 100%. But if I was a psychopath and I didn't care about morality at all and had zero empathy, and I was the government, what I would do, probably out of my own self-interest, is I would probably do classification categories for stocks and say stocks that are all over the world, ubiquitous, maybe like a Walmart, maybe like Altria, or Philip Morris cigarette company, whatever, doesn't matter. You could have those stocks be on blockchain, but maybe like a SpaceX or like one of the military contractor ones. You know what I mean? You can pick like a Boeing, or I don't know. Maybe then this is tied to national security. This can't be traded permissionlessly, but maybe other stocks could. So maybe that's what happened. I don't know.
Didn't the SEC put out some guidance on crypto securities? And crypto securities, they've now defined as like representing a stock, like a actual registered security. I'm trying to remember what it was because people were like thinking it was a win. It was good. So maybe they've already done that, Denny. They're already putting out some guidance there to that effect.
Perhaps.
But it's a few months ago, earlier this year.
I didn't follow that news, but yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're going to be forced to, right? I mean, the point is like with THORChain, like this type of infrastructure, it's just going to be neutral for anyone use. So they're going to have to adapt around that, right? And if they make one decision, they will be economically harmed in the long run. If they make the correct decision, they will embrace the technology and you know, that's why I still think that the game theory, the principles are still intact. Those the countries that are most friendly to this environment will seek to reward the most because they will attract capital. I mean, I think it's quite simple. Yeah.
Yep.
We're coming on 2 hours, guys. I don't have any questions that I've seen. Is there anything else, Chad, that you think we want to talk about that we've missed? What do you think? I can't think of anything.
I don't think so. Not for now. I think we've talked about all the main things, and you know, we'll be back online trading hopefully in a few days, and you know, and we could start rolling out the roadmap, which I'm super jazzed about.
Heck yeah. So, okay, let's recap then for people maybe turning in right now. Gaia just recently got turned on. When it's back to the tip, we can churn, right? We can churn, you know, unhalt signing, unhalt trading. That's basically, am I oversimplifying it? I think that's pretty much what we got to do. Because once we churn that,
there's
yeah,
more to
okay.
it, but that's basically it.
Okay, yeah. So let's hope, guys, the churn is always a little bit of a wild card. Sometimes it's really quick. Sometimes it's, you know, a few days, but it happens, right? So, woo, we're getting there, you guys. Thanks again, Chad. I really appreciate it. Make sure to extend, you know, you're the court, you know, you're the senior dev, but, you know, I hope you're extending our thanks to them as well, because I know they've been working really hard. And maybe I'll ask that real quick. Like, you know, we have Maya crew, and Maya, it's like when I talked to Maya Protocol back when they weren't like working on THORChain directly, they were always very honest. They're like, hey, you know, like THORChain devs, this is back when 9realms was around, like those guys have solved really hard problems. They've had those emergency crises, and they've had that experience. We've not yet had that opportunity. I think now that has been broken. They've had their moments. Like, how has been the collaboration been on the core team? You know, has it been good? Some things we can improve. You don't have to get into specifics, but just general sentiment.
No, I've actually been quite happy with Maya's performance working on the protocol itself. I mean, they were the best team to bring in to kind of replace 9realms by far, because obviously they did a deep knowledge of not only the code base, but the THORChain community as well. They are THORChain community members, and they've been THORChain community members for many years now. You can't hire for that in some sense, because, you know, they were definitely the best, kind of the most obvious kind of answer to the question. And to be honest, I've been very happy with the work they've been putting in so far. They've been doing a great job of things. There are some things I would like to change moving forward, and some improvements we can be made, like, of course, but I've been very happy with the quality of work they've been doing. They've been doing a lot of work just to keep the lights on, keep things moving forward, which is like really important stuff, of course, as well. It gives me space so that I don't have to worry about that so much. I can stay focused on roadmap things, or, you know, greater efficiencies to the protocol to get more volume, more fees. I can spend more of my time working with, you know, Randy on some biz dev stuff from time to time. It's sort of like giving me that kind of space and freedom personally is actually really helpful for me to actually push the protocol forward in other kinds of ways. So it's like super valuable.
The joke has been, my protocol is THORChain's hot Mexican girlfriend. Sounds like we popped the question. Sounds like we are now engaged, and it is a stable relationship, and we're gonna get married and maybe make a lot of babies. I don't know. Really cool. Really cool. All right.
It gives me a lot of more confidence, because, you know, JP and I have been talking about for a long time, and about, you know, one day for us to leave the protocol in a sense, and leave it for others to continue. and JP stepped back for now, and maybe he'll come back, maybe he won't, who knows? But you know, if the time comes at some point in the future, which is nowhere foreseeable right now, but that I do step back from this protocol, I want to make sure that I leave it in hands of that are quite capable, and I feel good and confident in their abilities. And I think Maya this far has been, you know, shown that they are capable of doing that, you know, which gives me a lot of comfort, using more space to be able to move on to other things that I want to move on to one day. But that's not happening anytime soon. There's a certain goals I want to achieve on this protocol. I want to get THORChain to be one of the top dexes in the world, top 10 dex of the world. I want to see TCY hit, you know, $1 at minimum. A bunch of different things that I want to achieve myself before kind of looking for the next thing, but which is obviously, you know, many months, if not years away. But to have somebody on the team that I can rely on, that can help me with the day-to-day stuff, is like such a value add.
I love it. I love it. I think that's great. Kenton, do you have anything else, or do you think we
No,
should
it's
wrap it
great.
right there, sir?
Wrap it
Gosh,
up.
well, shout out to our Mike boys. They don't, you know, we don't talk about them, I don't think, enough. And we know we got to get Alex on the show again. He hasn't been here in a while. I'd love to hear from him. So maybe we'll try and get that done. But great job,
Should have him
everybody.
on Saturday. We should maybe on one
Yeah,
of our
why not?
Saturday podcasts.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
everyone loves Alex, so we should have him
Yeah.
on. Absolutely, 100%. Okay, perfect. Well, sounds
one
like
last
What?
thing. I was just checking because Guy is back on trading again, not trading again, but unhalted again. And I just looked at the 80th percentile. We were 45,000 blocks behind, which was a couple minutes ago, and now we're at 42,000 blocks behind. So that's pretty quick. So I would think that we're going to be caught up on Gaia in the next probably 12-ish hours, I'm going to guess. And if that happens, then we can, you know, by this time tomorrow, we should be enabling the churn again, and, you know, starting that process.
Love it. God dang it. That makes me so happy. God, what a banger way to end this frickin' podcast, you guys. Oh, I love it. This has been the longest month of my life. Probably 2021 was probably the longest month of my life.
Don't lift the table now.
I won't. No. I'll keep this table safe. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you again, Chad and Kenton, as always. You are the best. Okay, you guys, we are coming to the end of the podcast. Always remember, if you'd like to become a node operator and need some help, please reach out to @RuneTard on X. It's a silly name. That guy is an absolute legend. He will help you get set up and find bond providers. He is the real deal. Absolutely can't ask for better than RuneTard. So reach out to him. For THORChain data and insights, please follow Ray Analytics on X. He does written recaps of these podcasts too. He does an excellent job, and he does it for free, you guys. And he's also doing a lot of things in the background to help us. We love the guy. So give him a follow. And always remember, guys, the views expressed here are solely of the hosts and guests. Any action taken based on the information is at your own risk. Past performance is never indicative of future results. The THORChain community does not endorse or condone illicit activity of any kind. We hate criminals. For Saturday, guys, we're going to have Zolo's Army. Is that how you say it, Kenton? Zolo's Army? Network.
Yeah.
Zolo's Army Network.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's Fernando. We just below that. What does it say?
Yeah. Fernando with eCash, XEC. I'm really excited to learn more about them, guys. Going to be great. And then next week we are going to be talking to. Is it Amir Taki? Is that how you say it? Hopefully,
I don't
I'm
know how to say it
terrible with
either.
names. Okay,
Yeah.
well, I'm going to call it Amir Taki. I'm sorry if I butchered the name. He's a KOL in Monero, you guys. Also a Bitcoin dev from back in the OG days. So look out for that, guys. Thank you, everyone, for your time. Really appreciate it. Kenton, will you try and say something there?
No, I was saying, apparently Mimir is like one of like the big thought leaders in Monero. And
Awesome. Love it.
he's been a fan of THORChain for years. So, and I have to shout out to Ibec with Unstoppable. He introduced us, connected us. And so, yeah, Mir's just coming on I don't think he has anything in particular to promote. He's just celebrating us getting Monero on THORChain. So this is like an Eric Voorhees type guy supporting THORChain, right? It's not just because he sees the beauty in it and what we're doing. So really looking forward to having him on. Should be great.
That sounds great. I absolutely love it. Chad, if you want to pop in, you feel free. I'd love it.
You know what?
Uh,
One thing I wanted to talk about this in this podcast, although it's probably too late now, we could save it for next
go
time.
ahead. It's fine.
Is there was an attempt earlier this week, what I presume to be North Korea. I don't actually know that for a fact, but based upon the Google searches and I did an investigation, there was an attempt earlier this week to attack me personally and overtake my laptop, and I assume they're looking for private keys or whatever it was. It did not work, but I thought it would be good for we can save for the next podcast, but like just tell people what my experience was in the interest of just publicly educating people about what it looks like to be, socially phished and tried to get you to install crap on your laptop, which you should not install for reasons. So it's kind of similar to what happened to JP like months ago, right? Where he was personally attacked by somebody. But next week we can talk about that because it's probably too late in this conversation.
Yeah.
But I just want to talk about just so people just make people more aware of what that looks like, what it feels like, how to what you can do to protect yourself, and this kind of stuff to keep the community more knowledgeable about getting socially fished, which is it's gotten so good now. Now you can generate, like, this is crazy, but you can generate like deep fakes in live time where you can have some friend of yours, which happened to me, some friend of mine that I not even this like, and then I'm on a video chat with somebody who looks like the person, and oh my god, dude, it's just gotten so effective, And so anyways, next week we can talk about that, but it's interesting.
See, but we mentioned JP. This was the example I was saying earlier. Is that JP didn't have to tell anybody that happened to him.
Yeah.
But he made it public to try and help people, to say just what you said, Chad, to like help you avoid it, protect yourself, whatever. And instead that gets turned into THORChain's creator has been hacked. THORChain's been hacked. And it's like, oh my God, you guys, like, no, like nothing's happened to THORChain, and like you're doing this out of the goodness of your heart. You didn't have to say this or say anything or bring it up. You're doing it to try and help people.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. I think it's awesome. Great idea. I think I think it'd be fun.
We'll save it for next week. Guys, tune back in if you want to learn more about all that.
That's right, you guys. We're going to wrap it there. Have a great rest of your week. We'll see you guys Saturday. Take care now. Bye, everybody.
All right, guys. Later.
Bye.